The sun rose slow over the wide western plains where dust danced with light and silence spoke louder than words. A lone rancher named Eli lived there, a man shaped by hard work, open land, and quiet prayers. His ranch stretched far beyond what the eye could hold. In the farthest corner it stood a place no one ever touched. People in nearby towns whispered about that land. They said pain lived there. They said sorrow slept beneath the soil. Eli never believed in rumors. He believed in fences, cattle, honest labor, and faith earned through struggle. Every morning he rode his horse across the land, checking water lines, watching over calves, and greeting the wind like an old friend. Yet every ride, he stopped before that restricted area. A rough wooden sign leaned crooked in the dirt, warning all who passed to stay away. Eli did not know who placed it there or why, but something in his chest tightened whenever he came near. One morning after a storm, Eli noticed the fence near that land had broken. Rain had washed away the soil and hoof marks led inside. Something or someone had crossed into forbidden ground. His first instinct was duty. If cattle were hurt, it was his responsibility. He dismounted slowly, the air heavy, like it carried old memories that did not belong to him. As he stepped closer, he heard a soft voice trembling with pain, asking him to stop. The words were weak, yet strong, filled with fear and warning. "Please do not do that. It still hurts there." Eli froze. He had not seen anyone on his land in months. He followed the sound carefully until he found a woman sitting beneath a twisted oak tree. Her clothes were torn by travel, her face marked by exhaustion, yet her eyes held a quiet fire. She told him her name was Mara. She said she had lived through loss that land remembered. She said touching the wrong place awakened wounds that never healed. Eli listened without interrupting. Something in her voice felt true, like it came from the same place as his own loneliness. Eli offered water and shade, not questions. He believed kindness opened doors that force never could. As Mara drank, she told him she had been running not from danger, but from memories that chased her harder than any man. She believed the land felt pain just like people did, and that some places carried scars. The wind shifted and the sky cleared. The ranch no longer felt empty with Mara there. Eli felt something stir inside him, hope mixed with caution. He did not understand her fully, yet he respected her warning. He fixed the fence, but left the sign standing just as it was. That evening, Eli invited Mara to rest at the ranch house. He did not expect her to stay long, but he felt certain her presence was no accident. As the sun set behind the hills, Eli realized the land was not the only thing that carried hidden pain. Hearts did too, and sometimes healing began when someone finally listened. Morning came gentle across the ranch, and Eli woke before the sun as he always did, yet something felt different. The house was no longer silent. He smelled coffee and heard soft footsteps moving carefully, like someone afraid to disturb a fragile peace. When he stepped into the kitchen, he saw Mara standing by the window, looking out at the land like she was studying an old wound. They ate breakfast together in quiet comfort. No questions pressed, no explanations demanded. Eli believed some truths needed time to rise on their own. After the meal, he saddled his horse and asked if she wanted to ride. She hesitated, then agreed, saying she needed to understand the land she had entered. They rode slowly across open fields. Mara watched everything: the grass, the sky, the cattle, as if each held meaning. She told Eli that her past was tied to land like this, open spaces where people believed pain could be buried and forgotten. She learned the hard way that ignoring hurt only made it stronger. When they neared the restricted area, Mara asked him to stop. Her face paled and her hands tightened on the reins. She said this place once held a settlement where families dreamed of peace but were broken by greed and betrayal. She said her own family had been among them. Her mother had warned her never to return, yet grief pulled her back like gravity. Eli listened with respect. He had lived his life believing hard work healed all wounds, but Mara showed him another truth. Some wounds demanded to be faced, not worked around. He realized that his silence, his solitude, his refusal to let anyone close might be his own restricted area. As they turned back, Mara went suddenly, pressing her side. She whispered that the pain returned whenever she felt unsafe. Eli helped her down from the horse and guided her to a shaded spot. He did not touch where she guarded. Instead, he sat beside her, steady and calm, letting her know she was not alone. She told him the pain was not only physical, it came when memories broke through. She had trusted someone once who promised protection, but left her broken. She learned to warn others before they caused more harm. That was why she spoke the words that stopped Eli that first day. By the time they returned to ranch house, Mara was exhausted. Eli prepared a place for her to rest. He worked quietly, but with purpose, fixing small things around the house, making space without asking permission. His actions spoke care louder than words. That night a storm rolled in thunder, echoing like the past. Knocking at the door, Mara cried out in her sleep, and Eli stayed nearby until the storm passed. He did not wake her. He simply kept watch, understanding that healing sometimes meant standing guard. As dawn approached, Eli realized something important. The land was not cursed. It was waiting for someone brave enough to acknowledge its pain and still choose to stay. He felt a growing certainty that Mara had come into his life not by chance, but to challenge everything he thought strength meant. Part 2 of their journey ended with quiet resolve. Two strangers bound by unseen scars beginning to understand that love did not rush it, listen, it stayed, and it respected the places that still hurt. The days that followed settled into a slow, steady rhythm that felt almost sacred. Eli worked the ranch from sunrise to dusk, and Mara moved through the house and land like someone relearning how to breathe. She helped where she could, cooking, cleaning, tending a small garden near the porch. Each task seemed to ground her, reminding her she still belonged somewhere. One afternoon, Eli found Mara standing near the edge of the restricted land, staring into the distance. Her posture was strong, but her eyes carried storms. He did not rush to stop her. He walked up slowly, letting his presence be known. She told him she needed to face it, not run anymore. She said pain only ruled when it was avoided. Together they stepped closer than before. The air felt heavy yet alive, like the land was listening. Mara spoke softly, sharing memories of her childhood, laughter of people helping each other, dreams planted like seeds. She also spoke of a trail of outsiders who came with promises and left destruction that the land remembered because no one ever mourned it properly. Eli realized he had lived beside that pain without acknowledging it. He felt shame for ignoring the past simply because it was uncomfortable. He knelt and pressed his palm into the soil, not in ownership, but in respect. Mara closed her eyes and breathed deeply. The pain in her side flared, yet she stayed standing stronger than before. As the sun lowered, Mara said something had changed. The ache remained, but it no longer controlled her. She believed healing began the moment someone chose to witness pain. Instead of denying it, Eli understood then that love was not about fixing wounds, but about honoring them. That evening they shared stories by the fire. Eli spoke of his loneliness after losing his parents young and building walls instead of relationships. Mara listened without judgment, offering quiet understanding. Their hearts met in shared vulnerability, and something unspoken grew between them, trust. Over the next weeks, the ranch felt different. Laughter returned. Birds nested closer. The cattle calmed. Even the wind seemed softer. Mara smiled more often, and the pain visited less. She still warned Eli to move gently around certain memories, and he respected every boundary without question. One night, under a sky full of stars, Mara admitted she feared love. Because it asked her to risk pain again, Eli replied that pain was unavoidable, but regret came from never trying. He promised never to cross her boundaries, never to touch what still hurt unless invited. Mara cried not from sadness, but relief. She had never known such patience. They sat side by side, hands close, but not touching, learning that closeness did not require possession. The land healed alongside them. Grass grew thicker. Where soil once eroded, flowers appeared near the old sign. Eli left it standing, but carved new words beside it, words that spoke of remembrance and respect. As seasons shifted, Mara no longer felt like a guest. She became part of the ranch, part of the rhythm, part of Eli life. Their bond deepened through shared work, shared silence, and shared hope. Part 3 ended not with grand gestures, but with quiet certainty. Two souls learning that love grew strongest when it honored pain, respected boundaries, and chose to stay even when it hurt. Change arrived slowly like dawn stretching across the plains. Eli noticed at first in the way Mara walked with more confidence and less caution. Her hand no longer pressed her side as often, and her eyes carried more light than shadow. She still moved gently around certain memories, but fear no longer ruled her steps. One afternoon, a stranger rode in from the east, bringing dust and old tension with him. He claimed to be a land agent sent to inspect property lines and ownership records. Mara stiffened the moment she saw him. Her breath shortened, and pain returned sharp and sudden. She whispered to Eli that this man came from the same group that once destroyed her family settlement. Eli felt anger rise, but he stayed calm, remembering what Mara had taught him. Strength did not mean force, it meant protection with wisdom. He met the stranger with firm words and clear boundaries, telling him the land was private and no inspection was permitted without proper authority. The man laughed dismissively and stepped closer to Mara, ignoring her warning. His presence reopened wounds deep in the land itself. Mara spoke the words that once saved her voice, steady despite the pain. "Please do not do that, it still hurts there." Eli stepped between them, placing himself as a shield. He did not touch the man, but his presence was unmovable. The stranger saw something in Eli's eyes that made him retreat. Without another word, he turned his horse and left the ranch trailing silence behind him. When the dust settled, Mara collapsed to her knees, overwhelmed. Eli knelt beside her, not touching where she guarded, but offering his coat warmth and safety. She cried, not just from fear, but from release for the first time someone had defended her without needing explanation. That night, Mara shared more of her past than ever before she spoke of love once promised and broken of trust given and stolen. She said pain taught her to warn others before they caused harm, because no one warned her. Eli listened, holding space for every word. He told her she never needed to protect him from pain. He chose to stand with her fully, knowing love came with risk. He said the land, the heart, and the past all deserved respect, not fear. In the days that followed, Eli took action. He filed legal claims, protected boundaries, and ensured no one could trespass again. He did it quietly, not for control, but for peace. Mara watched, realizing safety could exist without confinement. As weeks passed, Mara's strength returned stronger than before. She began helping neighboring ranch families, offering kindness and wisdom. She became known as someone who understood pain, and healing her presence inspired others to face what they avoided. Eli watched with pride and growing love. He realized his life had expanded beyond fences and fields. He had learned that love was not possession, but partnership. One evening at sunset, Mara stood at the edge of the restricted land. She removed the old sign and placed it gently on the ground. She said the warning no longer needed to stand because pain had been honored, not ignored. Eli did not cheer or celebrate. He simply stood with her, understanding that healing did not erase scars, it transformed them into reminders of strength. As stars appeared, Mara reached for Eli's hand for the first time. Without fear, he felt the weight and wonder that moment, knowing it was an invitation freely given. Part foreclosed with a promise unspoken, yet clear love built on respect, courage, and patience could survive even the deepest pain. The bond between Eli and Mara grew deeper with each passing day, not through dramatic words, but through shared purpose and quiet loyalty. The ranch fell alive in a new way, like it had been waiting years for this kind of harmony. Mara no longer flinched at every memory, yet she never forgot them either. She carried her past with strength, not fear. One morning, Mara told Eli she wanted to rebuild something near the restricted land. Not a house, not a fence, but a place of remembrance. She believed healing was strongest when pain was acknowledged openly. Eli agreed. Without hesitation, together, they cleared a small area, planting wood markers and wildflowers. Each step felt meaningful, like honoring voices long silenced. As they worked, Mara spoke about forgiveness. She said forgiving did not mean forgetting or excusing harm. It meant choosing not to let pain decide the future. Eli listened, realizing he had forgiven the world for his loneliness, but never truly forgiven himself for hiding from life. That evening, Eli invited Mara to ride into town with the townsfolk. Noticed the change immediately. They saw how Mara carried herself and how Eli stood beside her with quiet pride. Some were curious, some respectful, others cautious. But Mara greeted everyone with calm grace, showing no fear. At the town gathering, a local preacher spoke about hope born from hardship. His words resonated deeply with Mara. She felt seen, not judged. After the gathering, a woman approached Mara, shared her own story of loss. Mara listened, offering comfort. She realized her pain had given her the gift of understanding others. On the ride home, Eli admitted something he had never said aloud. He told Mara he loved her not with urgency, not with demand, but with certainty. He said he loved her strength, her honesty, and the way she taught him to face what hurt. Mara stopped her horse and turned to him. Tears filled her eyes, but her voice was steady. She said she loved him too, not because he saved her, but because he respected her pain and never tried to own her healing. They stood there under an open sky, hands joined freely, knowing love had arrived naturally without force or fear. In the weeks that followed, they worked side by side as equals. Decisions were shared, burdens lightened, laughter frequent. The ranch became a place of refuge for others passing through. People felt peace there without knowing why. One afternoon, Mara felt a sharp pain again, but this time she did not panic. She breathed through it, knowing it would pass. Eli stayed near, offering presence, not worried. The pain faded, reminding her healing was not a straight path. As autumn arrived, Eli and Mara talked about the future, not with rigid plans, but with hope. They imagined a life built on honesty, service, and shared faith. They knew challenges would come, but they trusted their bond. Near sunset, Eli carved a small marker near the wildflowers that honored those lost, and those who survived. Mara stood beside him, feeling whole. Part 5 ended with hearts aligned and paths joined, two people choosing love every day not as a cure, but as a commitment grounded in respect, trust, and enduring hope. Winter came softly across the plains, covering the land in quiet white layers. The ranch slowed, but did not sleep. Eli and Mara moved through the days with warm, shared fires, shared work, and shared prayers or love, felt steady, not loud, like a deep river that never stopped flowing. One morning, Mara woke before dawn, feeling the familiar ache, yet it was different now. It no longer frightened her. It reminded her how far she had come. She stepped outside, watching the sky change colors, and felt gratitude instead of fear. Eli joined her, wrapping a blanket around both of them, not to protect, but to share warmth. They talked about the journey that brought them together, the warnings, the pain, the patience. Eli said the words that once stopped him from touching the restricted land had saved more than the soil. They had saved him from living closed, and afraid. Mara smiled, saying sometimes pain spoke to guide, not to punish. As spring approached, new life appeared. Calves were born, flowers bloomed near the remembrance place, and laughter returned stronger than ever. The land felt whole, not because the past disappeared, but because it was finally honored. Eli and Mara decided to open a ranch as a place of rest for travelers, and those carrying heavy hearts. They did not advertise or explain. People simply arrived and left lighter than they came. Mara listened to stories. Eli offered work and shelter. Together, they created something larger than themselves. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Eli asked Mara to walk with him to the place that once held the warning sign. The soil there felt peaceful now. He asked her to be his wife, not as a promise to erase pain, but as a vow to walk with her through it always. Mara answered yes with calm joy, not tears. She said yes, because love had proven itself through patience, respect, and time. They stood there holding hands, feeling the land witness their promise. Their wedding was simple, held under open sky, with neighbors, friends, and strangers alike. The preacher spoke of love that listens and faith that endures. Mara walked freely, without guarding her side. Eli stood tall, without hiding his heart. Life continued with seasons of ease and challenge, but they faced everything together. When pain returned, they did not fear it. They listened, learned, and stayed present. The land no longer needed warnings. It held stories, lessons, and healing for all who respected it. Eli and Mara lived as proof that love built on understanding could turn even the deepest hurt into strength. The story ended not with an ending, but with beginning. Two lives joined, two hearts open, and a future shaped by faith, courage, and the quiet power of listening to what still hurts.